Everybody, good morning, good evening. Welcome. We're in Seoul this week, virtually, and I want to say hello to everybody. I know a whole bunch of you already dropped it in the chat. Welcome. It's I know it's supposed to be summer. I was thinking about a summer evening in Seoul. It's always so nice to walk around the streets of Seoul on those really hot summer nights. But at least right now in Toronto, it's cold. So I've got a jacket on this morning. Squidge, 안녕하세요. Hitman, welcome. Moon, Laura. Oh, Laura, thank you so much. The t-shirt. I know this is really meant for summer. The melting brain t-shirts, they are on the Toolkit store now. Even though it's cold here, but maybe it's always a good time for ice cream. It's always a good time for our brains to melt. I figured I'd start off. Hey, everybody's stopping by from South Africa. See, it's cold in South Africa right now too. Hello, Pom Pom Kitty, Nicole, John. Welcome, everybody. Earlier this week, I guess throughout this week, since last Monday, I've been doing mentorship and guest lectures for a Stanford summer program. I've done this before. They do a summer program each summer that brings in future med students, and they learn about all sorts of different aspects of healthcare, including engaging with patient leaders and designing around patient needs. And I really like the program. It's great to be involved with because it's also an opportunity to connect with younger students. And one of the things that I'm always so impressed with, and that's so encouraging for all of this stuff we do around mental health, is that the younger generation of students coming in, and in particular, the younger generation of students coming into medicine and healthcare, are so much more well educated about mental health than I ever was at their age. Because of course I was struggling with all sorts of mental illness issues at their age, had no clue. But even I know other people in my generation at the time, say when I was in university, lots of my friends were going into medicine. We had no clue about mental illness and mental health and all of the things we discuss in our community now. That was so new and unusual and not talked about or understood. So it's so encouraging to see that this younger generation of students, they just ask the right questions, and they're so much more aware of emotions and different symptoms. And even just the fact that we were having a discussion, like the lecture I gave on Friday was about the work that I do now. So even that new students coming into medicine now are exposed to the idea of patient leaders and experts and people with lived experience then sharing that experience and building community around recovery. So that's really, really cool. And I thought we'd start out with one of the questions that came up that one of the students asked me on Friday, which I thought was interesting to explore because we see this coming up all the time. So maybe it'd be useful to talk about. And the question can kind of seem like a simple one, but it's very complicated. So the question was, what are common symptoms of mental illness? And I think that question is one that people can spend a lot of time compulsively researching online, right? Like searching for, do I have, common symptoms of mental illness X, or common symptoms of mental illness Y, because we worry, oh no, I'm going to develop a mental illness. It becomes a thing we practice mental illness around. But also for professionals, they want to know, what are the common symptoms so I can see when somebody's coming into the ER and help direct them towards mental health services. I think it's a really difficult question to answer, though, because of the way that mental illness expresses itself in our lives. And I always describe it in this way, saying there's a superficial set of symptoms that people are going to present with. And unfortunately, or naturally, those vary from person to person. And then there's going to be an underlying fundamental pattern beneath that, which is consistent across people. So that's where I talk about coping, checking, and controlling. So when people are struggling with mental illness, they're going to be doing coping and checking and controlling compulsions inside and outside of their heads in ways that are unhealthy for them. But the way they do those coping, checking, and controlling compulsions are going to be different for each person based on their circumstances in life and what they've learned in life. So how they've learned to control uncertainty and anxiety and other experiences they don't like. And that creates the challenge then with mental illness and symptoms. And that's also why a lot of people, they'll go searching online compulsively and then say, oh, nobody else has the same symptoms as me. And superficially, it may seem like that. And that's totally natural. Just like nobody else necessarily likes the same things you like or eats the same things you eat. We're each unique, and based on our circumstances and what we've learned in life, we develop like a unique footprint, a unique personality. And along with that, our mental illness compulsions and symptoms are going to be unique, right? The things that you're afraid of are not the things that the person beside you is afraid of necessarily. So you might say, oh no, this other person doesn't have fears about a gigantic donut falling out of the sky and crushing them. Oh no, I have donut OCD. My OCD is so unique. But that other person may worry about something else bad happening to them. And that's where it's actually the same symptom. They worry about a bad thing that they're afraid of. What the bad thing is, of course, is going to change from person to person. And what we need to do individually when we're dealing with this stuff, but then also as professionals, is look beyond the superficial symptom, look beyond the superficial fear at the pattern. So is this person trying to check on an uncertainty that can just be uncertain? Is this person trying to control a bad thing or control a good thing, but that they don't control? Because it's that checking or coping. Is this person trying to replace a feeling? What that feeling is doesn't really matter. It's the replacing and erasing and fixing that's the issue. But it reminded me of how this stuff can be complex. It does require us in many ways to be aware of and considering a person's personal context and unique experience in life. And so often in the healthcare system, there's not the time or the space for that. At the same time, we can recognize that these patterns are consistent around people. Right? And we see this all the time, even though, as we were already talking about, we're from places right here all over the world, but we struggle with the same patterns. It's just that the way those patterns manifest or that we practice them in our lives can seem unique. Mm-hmm. So I think in general, though, that idea of looking at both, okay, what are the unique symptoms that this person struggles with, or how this person's patterns are present in their life. At the same time, we want to look at that underlying pattern level. So there's always kind of those two levels we're looking at mental health challenges on. And it's so useful to not get caught up in that superficial stuff, because so often that's what happens, right? When we talk about themes, it's just attaching a lot of meaning and significance to the superficial symptoms. But in reality, they're no different underneath. Even across a lot of diagnoses, we're just looking at different ways a person is trying to control. We always say if you experience social anxiety, so you withdraw, you know, there's an event happening, you're like, oh, I don't want to go, I feel sick or something like that. You make up some excuse. You might say you have a social anxiety disorder, or it might be thrown up as OCD if you were afraid of, you know, causing harm to people, so you avoided them because you didn't want them to judge you. I mean, that's still a social anxiety. So that'll get one set of diagnoses. But if you're struggling with social anxiety and because of that, you lie to people or you push them away, so your compulsions are externally manifested, then we'll give you a different set. We're probably going to throw you into a personality disorder bucket. But I would say it's the same, right? You're just controlling in the way that you learned how to control. You're still just trying to control social anxiety, a fear of being alone, a fear of being judged. Likewise, if you cope in quotation marks, with your social anxiety by getting drunk or doing drugs. We're going to put you in another bucket. But in reality, again, that's just the way you've learned to try to control that emotion. And so I find it's really important that we look at that underlying pattern level, in addition to the way that person practices compulsions because of that pattern. Ta-da, there we go. That's all I wanted to share to start with, because it was fun connecting with the students at the, I believe the full title for the program is the Stanford Anesthesia Summer Institute. It was a pleasure, everybody. And maybe even some of the students are dropping by here. So students, if you're dropping on by, it is great to see you. I'm drinking mate this morning. Those of you interested, I didn't have any Monster in the house. I don't usually drink Monster, but sometimes if it's on sale, a refreshing Monster in the morning, it's as good as tea. So anybody who's dropping by for the first time, this is Brain Tech Support Live. It's all about bringing in our thought appliances, which may or may not be working correctly. We're not really sure how they're supposed to work, but bring on in your appliances and we'll crack them open and we'll talk about how to use them in a way that works better for you. Oh, Kolo, I see matcha. No, actually, this is mate. Mate, you can check out a photo of it if you take a look on my Instagram story right now. I put up the ad for this morning's show with a shot of mate. Something I love about mate tea. So it's from the Andes. You'll generally find it's drunk more in countries like, Peru, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. Tends to come from that region, Chile. And the leaves look really interesting, and there's a very distinct smell to mate. I don't even know how to describe it. Mate smells like, I don't know, like fresh morning in the Andes, maybe? I'll have to go to the Andes to find out if they smell like fresh mate. And you asked if the Stanford video. No, I don't think they'll put it on YouTube. I mean, it's a summer school program that the students take part in, so I think it's just for them. Yeah. But we talk about the same things. I mean, there was a presentation. I gave a presentation. It did involve my favorite scientific diagram. I don't know, some of you have seen it. I'll share it later then on Instagram, which is the person standing in a pile of elephant shit and then the big elephant beside them. And of course, when somebody comes in to a therapist or a doctor struggling with mental health issues, they usually offer up the pile of shit and they get a diagnosis assigned to them based on the shit that they present. But in reality, we have to look at the elephant, the complex systems that we're often feeding or society is feeding that creates the pile of shit that we don't like. And until we address the elephant, we'll just keep finding ourselves in piles of shit. Carlos, yes. How or why do such people struggle with those patterns, though? I think this is the thing that really helped me, is to see that actually everybody engages in these patterns. The issue is not the pattern, but the practices we've learned to engage in as part of that pattern. If you experience anxiety, but you do something different with it, it may not turn into something problematic. And even a lot of people may say, oh, I don't struggle with social anxiety. I just don't like people. And so what they do is they avoid people. And we may not label them as having a mental illness, but in reality, they're doing the exact same practice that somebody is doing if they're, say, pushing people away. But because the other person's compulsion is focused on other people and doing things to other people, they're more likely to receive a mental illness diagnosis because it'll be seen as problematic. It's in many ways, it helped me see it's a lot about learning. And what we're doing, even when we're working on mental health and recovery skills, is learning new ways of interacting with emotions, new ways of interacting with thoughts, right? Learning that, oh, okay, this thought that I used to judge as bad, that I needed to do stuff around, it's not a problem. It can be there. Exactly. As Laura's saying here, I always used to think it was different stuff, but it's all uncertainty underneath. Yeah, we're just, this uncertainty, I've got to do a thing to it. Then it creates problems. But what if we just let the uncertainty be there? GameBread209, he said, would you have any advice for dealing with limerence? Can you explain why you need to deal with it? What do you want to do to it? Yeah, Andy said, I'm still confused about how brain stuff becomes intrusive. Can I ask how that happens? It really helped me to see that it's actually us doing stuff to thoughts. The brain is just throwing up stuff. It throws up stuff all the time. Right? If it throws up an image of an apple in your head and you go, whoa, that's bad. What does this mean about me? Does this mean I'm going to become an apple? Does it mean I want to make love to an apple? Oh no, this is bad. Now it's intrusive. Right? It's all about us engaging in compulsions and judgments around the experience. A thought is not actually intrusive. A thought is not actually doing anything to us. OCD, anxiety disorders, borderline personality disorder, depression, etc., whatever diagnosis, they don't have teeth, they don't have arms, they don't have tentacles. They can't do anything to us. It really helped me to see that I was the one troubling the thoughts. I was the one making them intrusive. So I say intrusive thoughts are compulsions. If we cut out compulsions, then we're also not sticking all of these labels and hating and trying to control thoughts. Exactly. Don't we all want fresh Andes in a mug? Please enjoy. Anybody who ends up grabbing some mate, it's a really interesting flavor, I will say. Like I like the stronger, bitter teas, and so mate does have a kind of fresh, sweet start, and then later on, after you've had a drink of it, it's a bit more of a bitter, sharper aftertaste. But I like that. I like it again because we're up in the Andes. It's in the morning, low oxygen, cold air, just slapping you in the face. Refreshing. I have and know everything to recover. But after I watch, which I like watching, or something like your videos or mental illness and help videos, I've noticed it hinders me and stops me. As in, I ruminate and don't know if I'm doing the right thing. But I'm not watching them. I feel vulnerable and feeling like I can't transition. So it really helped me to see that recovery in many ways is like learning how to swim, and anything that's challenging is like the water. And I want to learn how to jump in any water and swim in it. So what you're describing there, I would see recovery less as a thing to experience, less as a place, and more of a set of skills and actions. So when you're watching any kind of topic, any kind of philosophy video, any kind of mental health video, that's the water. And now you have the opportunity to practice swimming, to practice skills. Squidge, hey, it's good to see you. How do we go about supporting friends or loved ones with where they want to go without getting too bogged down in mental fitness stuff? Is it more about sharing just what works for us? Yeah, this is where I found fitness so helpful, because actually amongst my group of friends that are kind of close friends that I'd known for many years, I don't think any of my friends do the same physical fitness stuff that I do. And I really see the physical fitness stuff that I do as my practice. I don't expect anybody else to do the things I'm doing. Of course, I'm happy to invite people, to do something together. And also I'm happy to find ways that I can do the practices I enjoy in a way that also connects with the things my friends enjoy. And I approach the same with mental fitness. Really, it's something I practice and enjoy. And if other people want to engage with that, that's fantastic. And I'm happy to share that. But I always see it as something I enjoy doing. And I'm happy to talk about it. I don't have to not share about a hobby that I have, but I very much approach it as a hobby. And it can even be challenging sometimes if you see friends want advice, but then they will often not necessarily take it. But this is key, but it's because we've known each other for so long that any kind of advice or tip or something like that is just taken on a very different level potentially to something they might take from a professional. So it can also be, if you're looking at sharing advice with close friends, it may also be a very unrewarding experience. And so just having compassion and understanding for that. Yeah. Robin, you said, I want to be happy in life. What do you do to be happy in life, Mark? I do anything. I will have a sip of tea right now. Happiness, I would say, is more about the way of doing things, not about I'm going to do a thing to get happiness. So if you want to be happy in life, that sounds, that's a thing you can want. And I would look at how you're doing things. I would say that for me, happiness was understanding that it was about things I'm doing right now. And I want to do them in a way that's going to be enjoyable to me. I'm not going to be doing lots of compulsions and hating and comparing and judging and chasing lots of things I don't control right now. So having a sip of tea, for example, is an opportunity to do something in a way that supports happiness. It's not that happiness doesn't come from the tea. It's in how we drink it. Laura said, why do annoying thoughts that went away come back? Is that because we slapped a judgment on it and got a bit stuck? Yeah, I'd look at why is it annoying? Because if we've been like, oh, I hate this thing, I want to control it and get rid of it. And then when it goes away, we're like, oh, that's so good. I'm so glad it went away. Brain's like, wow, you like controlling that thought. Well, I will give it to you again so you can control it and get that high of relief that you're looking for. And so really looking at how we control and try to fix thoughts in the same way we might look at any addiction. If you feel bad about this thing and judge it and hate on it, and then you do something, you feel so good about getting control and relief from it, yeah, guaranteed to come back. Right? Guaranteed to feel that withdrawal, which in this case is going to come in the form of annoying thoughts, because then you're going to do more things to control them. And the brain's just looking for those hits of control. Troy, oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you found this helpful. You said, I got to admit, it does feel weird not ruminating or being on edge. Yeah, at first it's so strange, right? We spend so much time in our heads. I've got to think about this. I got to think about that. What about this? Always being on edge, like you described there, like something bad's about to happen and I've got to control it. Starting to learn we don't have to live that way. We don't have to be doing stuff in our heads. We don't have to be constantly on alert for a problem to solve and then feel good about solving. We don't have to do any of that stuff. I always think of it as throwing up your hands. The brain's going to throw up stuff, and we'll just say, hey, brain, I'm not doing overtime. No more of this free overtime. It's done. It's enjoyable, but so weird at first. Absolutely. We have to learn how to enjoy it. Hitman said, this is a tough one. I was too tired from work. Took Wednesday to Friday as vacation leave and had an OCD attack in my dream on Tuesday night. It was so intense that it messed up the rest of the vacation. I think my defenses lowered whilst dreaming. I would look at a couple other things in there, though. One of the things that jumps out is asking, how can you have an OCD attack in a dream or an OCD attack in general? It really helped me to see that OCD is about me doing things. Like if something comes up in a dream, that's totally fine. But if I judge it and hate on it and think it means things, like you said, it messed up the rest of the vacation. And I would ask how the thoughts can mess up a vacation. I can do lots of compulsions. I can spend lots of time ruminating. I can avoid things because I'm saying, oh, I had this bad dream. I can't do stuff today. I can't relax and things like that. But that's me. So I would shift the power back to you here And the reason for that is because if we have the power to do things, we can make changes. But if we see that locus of control as being in OCD, that OCD has teeth and claws and tentacles, then it's very difficult to make changes. So I would take a look at maybe approaching some things there differently. Erica, welcome. Oh, yes, it is Erica. How can we get awesome at being alone? Oh, a year and a half into a pandemic, I'm still not awesome at it. I think one of the interesting things that I like to explore a lot lately is kind of this idea that we're not totally alone. In some ways, we're always kind of with ourselves. There's always kind of two people here, maybe more people. And why I bring that up is because we're often talking to ourselves about ourselves. So one of the things we can do when we're alone is to really consider how we can enjoy spending time with this person. How do we want to be nice to this person? How do we want to have a fun time with this person? How do we want to enjoy being around this person? How can we be caring to them and supportive to them? So that is one of the things I'd look at. At the same time, being alone is tough. It's very challenging for us. We like being social animals. We like being around other people and building relationships. So part of this too is also having compassion for the fact that it will be difficult. It's like a lot of physical exercises. At no point does the stair climber really become enjoyable. It'll always be difficult. So how do we support ourselves in making that difficult climb? Loomis Beats, welcome. I think I saw somebody just said, I saw it. Yeah, Cynthia said greetings from Peru. Hello to Peru. David, he said, I feel like meditation is difficult. It is difficult. How can I make it more enjoyable? Oh, so one of the things I'd look at right there, just like we were just talking about with the stair climber, why can't a difficult thing be enjoyable? In fact, we go to the gym and a lot of people would say they enjoy working out. They like working out. It's a hobby. They want to go and work out, but it's very difficult. They're going to sweat and they're going to drop things and it's going to be sore and they're going to feel sore the next day, but they're going to go, oh, I know it was a good workout. It might help to approach meditation similarly. I think one of the challenges that come up is that meditation is often presented as, oh, like you're going to go do it and relax or something like that. And sure, there are meditation practices about relaxation, but within a meditation community, they're going to be understood to be very challenging in themselves. An exercise I often give people is it's a 45-minute deep relaxation guided meditation from Plum Village. You can find it on their app. And one of the reasons I give it to people is because that's very difficult for people to do. One, it's difficult for people to take 45 minutes to relax. A lot of people struggle to pay attention for 45 minutes. And a lot of people also just fall asleep during the 45 minutes. So it's difficult to stay awake and rest in awareness. Relaxation is a really useful skill to build, but it's very challenging. And likewise, so many other practices of meditation are also very challenging, and that's okay. It's okay to want to have a challenging exercise. That's how we build skills. We understand that. Any skill, right? It's very difficult to learn how to play a musical instrument. It's equally difficult to learn how to play your brain. Oh, it looks like, I hope, sounds like I was having some loading issues. I hope I will pretend to be stalling. I hope I'm fully loaded and the intertubes are moving smoothly. Kai said, how do you get past trauma you suffered because of OCD? One of the things to always look at with trauma is this idea you mentioned there of getting past it. And we can often turn that into a new compulsion. So particularly if you've already been struggling with OCD, the first thing that would jump to mind with that is just to make sure you're not looking for a new compulsion. So much of OCD is just that consistent pattern of contamination, of judging something as not belonging. This shouldn't be here. And we do it in all sorts of ways. We do it with our past. We do it with something that's been traumatic, and we'll say, oh, this was a horrible experience. And now when we're talking about getting over it, we're actually talking about, oh, I want to make this perfectly clean. I want to get rid of this feeling. I want to wash it off. And I'm trying to scrub it off, and I still feel it there. But that is just the pattern of OCD again. So I would watch out for that. I can give myself compassion if I experience something difficult in the past. I experienced something difficult in the past. I can give myself compassion and understanding. I can see how that trauma and that pain from the past is present in shaping my actions in the present. And that's where I can do work to start to change my actions in the present while giving compassion to that trauma from the past and bringing mobility back into my life. We so often approach trauma in a way that's really about the scar tissue, the internal scar tissue that forms over it. And that limits our mobility in life. So I want to recognize how that's limiting my mobility in life and make changes in my actions so that it's no longer affecting the things I want to do in my life. And that's how I begin to break down that scar tissue. But it's not about forcing it with anger and hate and judgment. It's really about melting it with compassion and understanding why I feel fear and pain in this moment, and then making a different choice. And that's how we begin to move through it and seeing, yeah, there's nothing we have to get past. Something painful happened. It's understandable that it hurts. And now we can do things differently. Marlos, you ask, do you know why the brain always falls back into old routines? I've had a few days of great mental fitness. I did exposure and didn't get over an hour of social media, and I felt good. But in the next few days, I see that I'm falling back in the old routine of sitting on my phone all day, not feeling strong enough to do stuff I value. But I felt happier when I did follow my values. So why does the brain crave the unhelpful and unhealthy routine over the new routine that feels better? So part of it is seeing that it doesn't matter what the brain craves. Of course, the brain's going to crave a compulsion, and of course, it's going to crave the thing that's easier. And the thing that's easier is going to be the thing we've always done in the past. Earlier this week on Wednesday, I did an interview that you can find on Twitch. It'll be on YouTube next week with Kelly Renee, and she talked about recovery and did a great segment on exactly what you're asking about. And she has a wonderful metaphor for this, describing it as paths in a forest. So the old habits are that well-worn path. And she even mentions how even though the path leads you off a cliff onto a pile of sharp rocks, we keep doing it. And you saw that. You saw when you actually do the things you value, you feel much better. The thing is that old path, even though we know it leads to disaster, it's easier. And so we just keep on walking down it. We have to hack out of the forest a new path, but that does require work. And so what we want to look at is how to support ourselves in making those changes. And checking out that video could be one way to look at this. I have a bunch of videos on my channel, like the one on the uncertainty curve, which describes exactly what you're talking about. We've got to help ourselves up over that intense hump and keep choosing the new direction. Or of course, we just go back to what we've done before. The other one to check out would be one called Killing OCD Monsters, which you can apply to any behavior change. It's simply recognizing that the more you try to go in a new direction, the more challenging it's going to feel. So you know that now. What supports can you bring into your life to make sure you keep going in that new direction? Because once we hack out that new path, the old path will start to become less appealing. It gets overgrown. It becomes the more difficult path, and it actually becomes easier to stick with the healthy activity. But you've got to take it to that point. It's not about the brain doing something. The brain is just there. Of course, it's going to take the easier path. Of course, we're going to take the easier path. It's starting to see that this is up to us. The brain's going to wonder why you're hacking your way through the forest when there's a totally open path over there. And so it's up to you to say, yeah, brain, but this is going to be much better for us. What's going to help you take that new path? What's going to help you do that work to make those choices? Moon, you said, I have intrusive thoughts, but no compulsions, or do I have them, but I don't realize I'm doing it? It helped me to see that intrusive thoughts are compulsions, because the brain just throws up a thought. But if we go, whoa, that's bad, that shouldn't be there, that's me doing a compulsion. One way of understanding mental compulsions is to see us doing them out in the real world. So if I'm having a thought and go, oh, that shouldn't be there, why is that there, what's wrong with that? That's no different than me seeing a random thing on the street and starting to shout at it, complain about it. Why is this here on the street? What's it mean about me? That's a compulsion. Justin, you asked, do you know about a Zen master named Osho? I've seen the Netflix documentary on Osho. I was not aware Osho was a Zen master. Mm-hmm. But I'm familiar with the name, yeah. Little Miss Beats said, I am rearranging my studio to get rid of the old and make room for the new. I find it so hard to do what serves me. I keep thinking what I should do. Like I should put the desk here because of XYZ. Anyway, it's fun using this as an exercise to do what will serve me. Enjoy that. Yeah, enjoy seeing what's useful to you and creating a space for that. Steven Seagal, welcome. No tomorrow, said, hi, Mark. It turns out it wasn't my last day the last time. Okay, wow. The location you're in looks futuristic. This is totally just how Seoul looks right now. What does the average human's mental health look like in the future? This is actually, this is something I've been considering exploring lately. And we're really heading for a period of time full of disruption, as you've seen this year with the pandemic, but also, we're seeing more heat waves, extreme heat waves coming in on the West Coast right now in North America. We've seen the flooding in Germany, flooding in Costa Rica, flooding in India this past week, more breakouts of pandemics, more variants, sea level rises, economic disruption, resource scarcity, etc. So the human's mental health in the future is really, it's going to be really important that people are learning skills to handle increased uncertainty. In many ways, we've lived often in very privileged positions throughout the world that have been relatively stable, and that's now coming to an end. People will need to learn how to handle change more effectively, because so many people are going to be put into a position of wanting things to be very stable and static, and finding that they are not. And this is a challenge we see coming up all the time. It's a pattern that fuels a lot of mental health struggles when we want things to stay the same, or we worry that things are going to stay the same. But often it's that we want to chase a particular feeling. We want to chase a sense of stable security. And that will not be the case of the future. Alareza, you ask, could you elaborate on values a little bit? Okay, I consider myself recovered and I want to do things that I value, but there's a void there. I don't know what do I want to do? That's totally okay. You can discover and choose and pick values. There is a values course on the Toolkit website. So if you go to thetoolkitstore.com, or you just write Toolkit values course, you'll find it on Google, which is a bunch of exercises to walk yourself through exploring values. Excuse me. One of the key things I mentioned in the course is that values are directions we get to choose and explore. And the reality is, because we've never wandered through the wilderness of life before. Of course, we don't know what we value. We get to choose and explore and pick. At the same time, we can also borrow values. We don't have to find values inside of us. Values are like recipes. If I just said, go and find a perfect recipe inside of you to make something, most people don't have a recipe hidden inside of them somewhere, like taped to their spleen or something like that. We learn recipes from other people. We see something that's delicious and we learn the steps to making it. And values are really the same. So you can look to somebody doing something that maybe you think you could find interesting to explore, and then find out the steps they took to get there. And then you can take some of those steps and see if you like that. And if you don't, that's fine. You discovered a path in the forest. And now you can ask some people who maybe have taken different paths and learn about the steps they took on that path and explore those. And maybe you'll discover one of those paths you really enjoy. So then you have learned something useful. You've learned that, hey, that path in this direction, I kind of like that. Maybe I want to explore more in that direction. And then you find more people that have gone in that direction and you learn about the steps that they took. And that's the process of learning the things we value. We don't have to expect to have them. So enjoy that exploration and discovering the steps that take you in a direction you want to go. Steven Seagal. You said, I just went out for lunch with my family, something I value. However, it also means I'm exposed to a trigger for more than 3 hours, and it became too much. Am I asking too much of myself? Should I just try to live with all the anxiety that I experience no matter what? Should I try to get out of my head and try to live with the trigger? I mean, getting out of you. So one thing, just in general, not spending time in our heads is super valuable. So if you were around a trigger, and this is the thing I'd really look at with triggers, is that when somebody talks about being exposed to a trigger, the thing that I want to know is, well, what were you doing? Because I'd rather look at cutting out compulsions and doing things we value. Because if we're exposed to a trigger, but then we're doing tons of compulsions, of course, that's going to get worse. So if we're around a trigger and we're like, this sucks, that's terrible. Am I here? How am I feeling? What's going on? Is this going to be okay? Can I handle it? Those are all compulsions that are actually going to make the experience much worse. So that's where I would start to look at this, because you did something you value and you had experiences while you were out there. And I mean, you did live. So right now it looks like a big success. So I would wonder, what are you seeing as the challenging problem here, and unpacking that and seeing, well, what could change around that? So in particular, this trigger was there, but why does that thing have to be a problem? What if you wanted to go out and have dinner with your family around more of that trigger? Laura, hey, that's great. You said, I'm just so new to this way of thinking of things. It's so new for me, but I'm getting better. I'm happier than I've been, even if I do get a little stuck. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. It's just like fitness. Totally understandable as we do new things that it's sweaty and sore, but we can keep doing it and get better and better at it. Oh, Squidge. I see. Well, I'm glad you found that useful. I think you mentioned here, I wonder if I'm just trying to work out how to not control other people's experiences. At the same time, that's always one of the most challenging things we encounter, especially with people we care about. I always think of family and really close friends as kind of this pro skill, because as we make changes, we do want to bring them along with us. And we don't want often a lot of friction there, because they may be doing some things that are not helpful or healthy, and we start to notice that. And so it is part of it is always challenging. find even it's something I often bring up with managers and things like that. So somebody is managing a group of people and they've had a lot of unhealthy practices. They're going to start to make changes that are healthy for them, but also the systems around them may not be totally open to those changes, may be really accustomed to the old way of doing things, may have thrived on the old way of doing things to a certain extent and not want to change them. So it's always useful simply to be aware of that, because sometimes we can't make changes there. So having that awareness of, what we can change, and then, being understanding of what we can't. Sonics Forever, you had your first online date. Congratulations. You got outside your comfort zone. And you got some great suggestions from a friend. That's awesome. Enjoy the online dating adventures. Taj said, I was curious on how you dealt with the days our brains just bombard us. I feel recovered for a month or two, and then a day just comes out of nowhere where everything goes downhill. Is there a reason this happens? A couple of things I'd look at. One, it really helped me to see that recovery is a set of skills. It has nothing to do with thoughts or feelings, like nothing. And I find it so useful to see that recovery is not even a feeling. There were a couple of questions this week actually on social media, and I don't know if this was, something must have come up because a whole bunch of people asked me, when did I feel recovered and how long did it take to feel recovered? But I always respond that recovery is not a feeling. No, it's really about practices and actions. And so like I was talking about earlier, it's about wanting to swim. So any kind of thought or feeling is the water, and I want to have the skills to jump into it and swim. So your brain there throwing up thoughts, that's fantastic, because now you get the opportunity to practice mental health skills, right? To practice swimming. If we're standing out of the water and we say, you know what, I feel like I'm a good swimmer now. That I would say is not as useful as being in the water and swimming and saying, I am swimming in these thoughts. I am swimming through these feelings right now. You can expect, your brain to have good days and bad days. On days, I used to have these things I called write-off days. When we're working on our mental health, but then the brain, for whatever reason, who knows, so many different things could happen. The brain kind of throws itself off a cliff into the ocean. And it helped me to just call those write-off days. Be aware, wow, my brain just not on board today, has really gone back down one of those old paths. That's not an issue. It can do that, right? Because my mental health and recovery has nothing to do with what my brain throws up. And then being considerate of that, I would look at what I can do on that day that's going to make tomorrow easier. Because tomorrow, even if my brain's still doing the same thing, I want to learn how to take my brain along on the adventures that I value doing. So maybe today when my brain went off the rails, it really threw me off and I'm not getting the things done I want to do, fine. I don't have to then start reacting to stuff in my head, because that's all the mental illness struggles ever were. Brain throwing up stuff and then me putting it in charge of my life. So what I'm going to do today is do some actions that will make it easier tomorrow to do the things I value while my brain does whatever it wants. And that's totally fine. The brain's just this weird kid I have to babysit. And generally, I cannot expect that kid to do anything I want it to do. And deciding if it was a good day of babysitting or not based on how this uncontrollable brat acts, not going to be useful, because it's just going to be an uncontrollable brat. So instead, I'm going to measure my effectiveness as a babysitter based entirely on things that I control. Stephen, so you said, maybe I did ask a bit too much of myself then. I took a nap afterwards to recharge, but maybe I should figure out ways to expose myself more gradually to lighter weights. I don't necessarily know. Like, to me, it sounds like it was hugely successful. I think we often underestimate ourselves. Right? You totally handled that. You had to take a nap after. That's fine. I mean, there's nothing bad about that there. Like, you can totally handle it. I would just look at how to do that experience again while cutting out compulsions. Maya, hello. Said, how do you feel more in tune with your emotions? Because they do have important functions, but I find it hard to identify what I'm feeling sometimes. Oh, emotions are great. So I would say that emotions are totally wonderful, and it's amazing that we can have emotions. And it's so useful to get in touch with emotions now. I've been thinking about this a bit this week, as we've seen a lot of the talk at the Olympics around mental health, and even before, with Naomi Osaka taking some time for mental health. And I think that conversation is so valuable, and I think it's so important to start to talk about emotions a bit more across sport, because I think one of the things that I struggled with a lot when I struggled with my mental health was that I was not in tune with emotions or anything. I used to say I didn't experience stress. I was just so blocked and trying to ignore the emotional experiences I was having, and they would come out through physical problems, sickness. I used to also have lots of weird pain issues in my neck, in my lower back. I don't deal with those anymore. I know even some people have talked about pain and stuff like that on the Discord server, but also I would get weird injuries. I used to have problems in my feet where I would go do random things and I would have like pain in my feet, which it was real in a sense. I was having a real injury, but now I'd say that was probably my body trying to express things in a way that I would actually pay attention to. And so I found it really interesting in the Olympics. So we saw there was a well-known male athlete who pulled out of a competition they were going to have after they lost a tennis match. This is a tennis player, Djokovic. He lost his match for the bronze. I think it was the bronze medal, maybe, in the singles. Involved multiple smashings of his racket. I think he smashed a racket on the court. He threw or smashed and then bounced a racket into the stands. And he then canceled his competition in the doubles. I believe I'm getting this correct. Or the mixed doubles. Citing an injury. It's entirely possible that that injury is real. At the same time, when I struggled with my mental health, especially, it helps me see now, if somebody was not handling an emotion like anger, smashing lots of rackets around and stuff like that, that is something I would have done in the past and then found myself with an injury. And yeah, the injury is real, but also the injury is just would be just a result of me not wanting to deal with or handle emotions in a healthy way, and so it would just come out somewhere else. And so I think for a while we're going to see this weird thing in sports where we're going to see some people talking more about emotions. It's going to be really helpful in getting in touch with those emotions, and you're going to have some people who do not have good emotional intelligence and don't want to handle their emotions, and they're going to keep seeing that come out through physical injuries. It's so funny that we're still you did not see any of the controversy around Djokovic saying, oh, I have an injury, I'm pulling out of the doubles, that we saw around Simone Biles, recognizing where she was at with her mental health and taking a step back. Or I would say mental fitness, because we've made it totally okay to recognize where your physical fitness is at and take a step back. And we have to do the same with mental fitness. But a lot of people won't have the skill and capacity to notice where their mental fitness is at. So that a whole piece to say it's really useful to start to explore our emotions. And at first, it's just that. It's starting to approach emotions with curiosity and recognizing, for me, it was recognizing I had no clue what my emotions were. So really starting to have experiences and be curious about them was what was helpful for me. And to notice my judgments about emotions and even to consider, well, I think my immediate judgment is that this is a bad emotion. But is it? Does it have to be? Is there a more useful way for me to interpret this emotion? So I would just start there, exploring. This is where I love to have like festivals of curiosity. Just say, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of things this week and just practice having an emotion. I don't know what it's going to be. And I don't have to even label it. I just want to step into it and notice my beliefs and judgments about it. Yeah. So enjoy that, Maya. No tomorrow. Said, my question is about traveling. I traveled a bit today, virtually. Said, it has always made me uncomfortable since I was a little kid. I feel very uncomfortable when I'm away from home, especially when I have to sleep or go to the bathroom. I judge all the places I go to, and it often ruins the relationships I have with people I know when they invite me to stay at their places. Even staying in hotels make me uncomfortable. Happiness leaves my body when I travel, and I don't understand what I can do to change my perspective at least a little bit. Lots of traveling. This is something I've been considering a lot lately, and so my plan right now, we'll see how things pan out as the world is changing, is to do a bunch of traveling next year, and maybe travel permanently. We'll go full wandering monk styles. Part of that right now is because so much of what I always do is to demonstrate skills, and that's very much how I like to share mental health skills, through practice and demonstration. And I think right now a lot of people, even though they may not notice it, are going to discover when things are more open again that they've developed a lot of anxieties around traveling, a lot of judgments and fear around new places and different places. And we're really going to have to learn how to move in the world again in a healthy way. As well, for the reasons I was talking about earlier about the future, we have to learn how to interact with the world in healthier ways than we have for many centuries. Having said that, the way to do that is to get out there and change those interactions. We can't sit at home and say, okay, I'm gonna get a good feeling about travel and then I'm gonna travel. It doesn't work that way. We have to step into those challenging experiences and be open that there are different ways of interacting with them. And so it's going to be like what you described there, like sleeping in other places, using toilets in other places. That's a great set of exercises you've identified there. Even at first, can really be about, you could set up a whole series of exercises over a month of trying different toilets in increasingly challenging places. It would be awesome. And you could do that from home, right? I say, hey, I'm just going to go out for an hour. While I'm out, I'm going to use a toilet somewhere, and I'm going to practice being grateful to that toilet and really changing what I'm doing. Because right now it sounds like you're doing a lot of judging compulsions, probably a lot of avoidance and controlling compulsions in those places. And that is only teaching the brain to be afraid of them. So the brain only changes beliefs through action. So if you want to change the way the brain views these places, you're going to have to show it. And that's where we're often babysitting that annoying child I mentioned earlier. It's about seeing that the brain is that kid, and the kid's like, I don't want to go to anybody else's toilet. You've got to show the kid how to use those toilets, recognizing that that's going to be really valuable to you. It's going to help increase your mobility in the world and life. But you'll have to show it. You'll have to teach that kid new tricks. Kim, you said hello from Buffalo, New York. Not too far away. Just over there, I think. Yes. Hi to you in Buffalo. I've been to Buffalo many times. You said you've had OCD rituals since you were a kid. That's great. It's always a time when we can cut them out if we want to. Neon Purple said, good to see you. It's good to see you too. How can I convince myself that a particular anxious thought is stupid? I'm having a hard time with it while being highly anxious and my emotion gets messed up. I believed all of my intrusive thoughts. I had no insight. I thought everything that came up in my brain was true, and I had to do the compulsions I was doing. So when you say, how do I convince myself that particular anxious intrusive thought is stupid? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't focus on that. I mean, now it's helped me to see that all thoughts are stupid. Just listening to the brain in general. Remember, the brain is just this weird melting ice cream cone. That's the brain. So yeah, I wouldn't, it doesn't matter. In fact, if a thought comes up and I believe it's real, like I used to believe that people were trying to poison me. The way out of that wasn't to convince myself that it was stupid to think people were poisoning me. The way out of that was to drink the things I believed were poisoned. The chat. Hi, Mark. Hello. I don't know if you remember me, but you answered my question 2 weeks ago. And I've been trying to follow your advice. And day by day, I'm kind of getting better. Whoa. Hey, congratulations on making changes there, chat. Oh, we have more people from New York. Kim from Saratoga Springs. Hello, Kim. Ambiance only said, I'm a 45-year-old man who had severe full-blown mental illness since decades. Any hope for me? Of course. I mean, mental health is about making changes. And so it's not about this kind of passive, like, is there hope for me? Because it'd be the same as asking, I haven't exercised for 45 years. Is there hope for me? Well, yeah, but if you start to make changes, somebody can say, yeah, I haven't cooked for 45 years. Is there hope for me? Yeah, you can always learn how to cook. This is about learning skills and making changes. And so we can always do them, but it has to be about doing them. We have to do them so much. The chat. Oh, here you're continuing. You said, and I realized that I was depressed and anxious because of fighting with intrusive thoughts. Do you have any advice what to do when you start to get anxious? Yeah, welcome it. Want to get anxious. Like you just saw there, it's from the fighting with intrusive thoughts, but also anxiety. It helped me to see that anxiety is like sweat. Right? If you avoid anxiety because you judge it as bad, that's like somebody who avoids sweating. Like, sweat's bad. I don't want to sweat. What's going to happen to them? If they avoid sweating, eventually everything is going to make them sweat. Same is going to happen with anxiety. If you avoid anxiety and you're like, whoa, anxiety's bad, we shouldn't have anxiety, how do I get rid of it? Eventually, everything is going to make you anxious. What we want to do is welcome anxiety and pursue it and step into it. Anxiety can be a wonderful part of our lives, just like sweating. We can want to do things that bring up sweat. We can want to do things that bring up anxiety, and we can see them as good. We can see them as part of living our lives. There's absolutely nothing wrong with anxiety. Maya, on top of it, pointing out the reassurance seeking, so useful. Denizen of Light said, I think social media has in part contributed to anxiety issues in society. It conditions us to be anxious about staying relevant and keeping up with trends and comparing ourselves with others. It could, but also you don't have to practice compulsions like that, right? Comparing is always a compulsion. And feeling like that judging, oh no, there's this trend and I have to do this. Instead, it can be really healthy. Just identify things we value and do those consistently and keep the focus on what we want to share and give. Yeah. Like a lot of things. I mean, just walking out in public, we could walk out in public and use it to be very focused on comparing and judging and say, oh no, that person is doing something trendier than me and that person has that car. I don't have that car. I better go and get it. Of course, we would be very anxious then. But that is just a practice we're taking. And whether we take that practice out into the street and we don't even use social media, or we stay at home and we just use social media, you can do the practice on both of them. And it's not a useful practice. It will give us a lot of anxiety. Right. He said, I am going bald and I don't rock an awesome head shape like you do for it. I tried meds, but they gave me side effects on the bedroom. I tried acceptance by shaving, but the reaction by people was negative. I got some harsh remarks that it looks ugly, looks unattractive. You don't have the head for it. And especially from the opposite sex, it was pretty harsh. I have no idea how to deal with this. It hurts me a lot being so judged on my appearance. And it's been impacting my self-esteem a lot that so many people seem to judge it negatively. What do I do? Is it avoidance to look for other solutions like a hair system or surgery? There are a lot of things that we can get caught up in around appearance and wanting to judge it and control it. And something that I would look at first, and this goes back to that idea of being alone, is that often we want other people to say really good things because we're not being kind to ourselves. And so we're like, oh, I don't want to be around this person. I need to go and find somebody that's going to say good things to me because I say such terrible things to me. So one of the things I would look at, whatever you decide to do, is how you can be kind to yourself wherever you are. And enjoy that. And enjoy being with yourself. And enjoy giving kindness and love to yourself. If we can be a good partner to ourselves, then we can start to look at different ways of maybe interacting with some challenges with other people too. And it becomes easier because we have a great support with us. It's very easy. I mean, it's very easy to hear negative remarks from other people about ourselves. Like I would say, I mean, that's in some ways one of the advantages of doing stuff on the internet. You have no lack of people saying negative things about you. And so you very quickly see, oh, like this is just like, it's not relevant. So the other thing I would look at is right now, like it sounds like you put a lot of importance on some comments you got and just asking like, why is that useful? And so I'd put that out there too. Like why is attractiveness, why is comments from other people about attractiveness so important? And in there, you might discover some changes to make too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, be kind to yourself out there. And in here. Oh, and here, Rowan, we have a similar question. He said, how do I become more thick-skinned towards people not liking me or wanting to fight me? I can't stand it when someone dislikes me. Also, how do I get over guilty past memories? I can't go back in time. Well, yeah, you can't go back in time. So why are you trying to get over guilty past memories? But then again, like we were just talking about there, people disliking us, wanting to fight us. I mean, that's just not chasing that belief or chasing that feeling or chasing this kind of perfect, everybody likes me thing is not going to be useful. Again, it's the contamination pattern that we see in OCD, right? I want everybody to have this clean opinion of me, and it's not realistic and it's not helpful. Yeah, we can do the things we value, and of course, there's lots of people who are going to dislike that. Marlos, yes. Do you have tips on the fear of manifestation? I mean, I think if I know what you're talking about, you may have to explain a bit more, but generally it's a magical thinking compulsion, right? It's this usual, right? If I do this thing, I'm going to cause this other thing to happen. So part of it's just that. I mean, it's a typical magical thinking compulsion. So what I found most useful was to agree with it. To do the things I value. And when my brain's like, whoa, because you did this horrible thing's going to happen, be like, of course it's going to happen. And I'm going to trust myself to handle it. Oh, Shane. Oh, Shane, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. That's a great little animated. Do you think it's like, is it a Shiba Inu? It's kind of also like a fox. Very cute. Thank you so much for the support. Arfaj as well. Thank you for the support and the donation. And David. Oh, everybody, thank you so much for the donations and the support. Yeah, it really helps with doing this work. Thank you. I'm glad you could join me in soul tonight as we talk about our souls. Banjo, actually, I don't understand your question. Could you explain it in a different way? Victor said, how can I break being stuck between two themes? I mean, I do my best at one, cut them out, but automatically I need to see another. And then if cut another, I shift it to the first one. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons for ditching the whole idea of themes. I'd start to look at compulsive patterns, because actually the theme doesn't matter, but what happens is when we focus on a superficial theme, instead of cutting out the compulsion, the brain is just going to switch theme because it knows that'll trick you into the compulsion. So we've got to cut out the compulsion. The topic is irrelevant. So it's about saying things like, I'm not going to redo things. Doesn't matter what the brain tries to get me to redo. I'm not going to check things. Doesn't matter if the brain's wanting me to check, something on me, check, that I didn't run over somebody, check that the door is locked. Those are the same compulsion. Matt said, you've just been diagnosed with OCD and you bought my book. I'm glad it's helping. Thank you for reading it. He said, I'm worried that self-help will become an obsession though. Yeah, so that's actually, I always find a great thing to emphasize. And so even sometimes people will reach out and say, hey, they read my book, and I'm very appreciative of that. And then they ask, what's another mental health book to read? And I would say, do not. Find a book that's about something you value doing, right? Because you know the skills now. So now I find it's about grabbing a good book that's going to help us with doing those things we value. That's maybe on a topic that we care about, that we can directly tie to action. So a simple example of this is if somebody had always wanted to start a business, anxiety always got in the way, compulsions always got in the way. Instead of grabbing another self-help book, grab a business book and actually start the business. Like follow through the steps in the business book and turn it into action. We can become compulsive about self-help, thinking I've just got to do more of it. I've just got to find more answers. I've just got to chase more magic solutions before I start living. And no, it's got to be about living and action. We've got to get out there and live it. And that's going to be the most useful thing we can do for our mental health and fitness. Oh, Emily, sorry, thank you so much for the kind comment there. I'm glad you found all of this helpful on your adventures. It's a pleasure to be a part of them. Yeah, thank you. Aniket, yes, how do I get awesome at connecting and building relationships with new people? By doing it. Again, we don't get awesome at it before doing it. It's like, how do I get awesome at swimming? By swimming. The only way to get awesome at a skill is by doing it more and making it okay to have problems. I saw a video this morning from a climber that I follow on Instagram, and he was talking about how much he falls and how important that is. And I think people kind of miss that. They think that a professional climber, like you just go and you're so great at it. But you only get great at it by falling and falling and falling and falling so often. That's how we learn. And he even talks about finding problems that he really struggles with and learning how to handle those. Where I think a lot of the time when we struggle with our mental health, we're actively trying to avoid things that we would struggle with. Like we were talking about earlier with sweat and anxiety. If we avoid things we struggle with, we just struggle with more things. We got to get out and do them. Sandon said, our son suffers from psychosis. What can we do to help him? He was a very smart boy, and as a student, his grades are falling, and basically his social life is falling apart. Now is a great time, if you're not already, to get him into an early Psychosis therapy program, there's a lot of great work being done on applying therapy skills to the challenges that come up with psychosis, because it's the same stuff. The brain's going to throw up something, it's starting to recognize, hey, I don't have to interact with that. I can instead engage with the things that I value, like building social relationships and things like that. So really helping with those skills and practices, there's a ton of great research showing how effective it is. So yeah, the fact that you've already caught this early and you're working on it, it's fantastic. Now it's about learning how to make those changes and recognizing that it's really challenging. That when somebody's struggling with psychosis, that it's not about trying to convince them there, and how do you want to act differently in a way that's useful to you, and learning how to interact with that. So thank you for supporting your son, and yeah, I hope you and your son much success and adventures as you take this journey. Gamer Opson is how to practice non-judgment to thoughts, because apart from coping, checking, and checking compulsions, judgment seems to be the hardest compulsion to cut out. Absolutely. Judgment is the first compulsion. So there's actually a video on my YouTube channel called Judgment is the First Compulsion. So I suggest you can check that out. There's also a non-judgment workout plan on the Toolkit store, which is the non-judgment skills workout plan that I always give to clients to start to learn how to practice non-judgment skills. It's the way that I learned how to practice non-judgment skills. And it is a workout. It's like learning how to practice skills. Lucas is how are you doing with your OCD? Oh, I guess I would say fantastic, because I haven't had OCD in it would be a decade now. Yeah, more than a decade now. I've got a series of videos coming up on recovery to kind of celebrate, or not just kind of, to celebrate 10 years of recovery. Yeah, I don't have OCD. I think it's weird that we approach these labels as though a person is just going to be stuck with them. It's kind of, again, with swimming, it's like if somebody had an experience of drowning once and then they learned how to swim, we don't always say, oh, you're a drowner. How is your drowning disorder going? No, we recognize, we can learn skills and we can leave those struggles in the past. And so, yeah, very much. I mean, this idea that somehow OCD has to be chronic and you'd always struggle with it, absurd. Like there's just zero, it would be impossible. I would have to do so much work to go back to having OCD, because I would have to completely change the way I interact with stuff in my head, completely change the way I interact with the world around me. And so, yeah, I could do it. Would it also be like saying I could hit myself in the face with a frying pan every day? I mean, I could do it, but why? And it's yeah, I would say everybody know, like, it's great to get to that point, and it's also very doable to get to that point. But yeah, it does involve making a lot of changes and learning a lot of skills. Uziel said, I always distract myself from thoughts, but I feel that is not healthy. I cannot be alone with my thoughts. What do you recommend? So this would be I found meditation was really useful for changing how I interacted with thoughts, and also for learning how to sit with thoughts. Being able to say, hey, I'm going to sit here. I'm not going to do anything. And brain, you can have any thoughts come and sit down beside me. And so it is kind of sometimes learning how to meditate was like sitting down on a bench and inviting a big, scary, screaming monster to sit down beside me and make that okay. I want to learn how to sit on the bench and let the monster scream in my ear. And that's totally fine. Sonics, yes. Any new books in the pipeline? So I've kind of set aside a bunch of time in August and September to work on the fiction, the novel that I've been working on. So I'd like to just finish that, just to explore doing a novel. And so it's going well. I like it. But then this last couple of months, I've been working on the internet skills online course, which will come out soon. And otherwise, though, I've been really enjoying doing the online courses and then working with people. I think in a day, because after I meet with a coaching client, I send notes after. And so it's kind of like when working with a client, kind of building a personal self-help book for them. And I've really been enjoying that. So it's been great. And I guess the reason for bringing that up is because I actually end up writing so much every day. But it goes specifically to people for their own journeys. And so I've really been enjoying that. I'll definitely write more nonfiction books in the future as well. But yeah, right now the writing for the courses and then writing for people has been using up all of my writing time, and I've been enjoying that. But yeah, we'll come back to books in the future because they're really valuable too. I have tons of ideas for books. Oh, Deep Fantasy, you found my book at Indigo and you saw that it was me and you scooped it up. Thank you so much for grabbing it. It's great you saw it at Indigo. It is. It has. I mean, and this brings it back to the book thing. It is awesome to have the book. It's like You Are Not a Rock, The Mind to Work Out. It's translated into 10 or 11, looking at the stack back there, languages now. And it's just been so amazing to connect with different people around the world. And, it's in bookstores around the world. And so it is really great to have that as well. It's very portable. Kim, you said, does anyone have to reread these sentences due to OCD? Yeah, so that's a great example there, seeing actually it's not due to OCD. We can choose to reread the sentences, but that's a compulsion we don't have to do. So when you see that, that's a great spot to be like, hey, I'm not going to reread things. It's done. Loomis Beats always said, please visit South Africa when I go full wandering monk style. It's a possibility. Laura, so can you give any of your thoughts on trusting yourself? I remember you saying about how each time you do a coping, checking, and controlling compulsion, your trust score goes down. But can you give some examples of your own experience on this? So yeah, I think it's really key to understand that when we do compulsions, it's basically this vote of no confidence in us. And think about it. Say, for example, we're just talking about the compulsion there of rereading sentences. Imagine you're at work. And so you're at work and your boss says to you, hey, can you read that sentence? And so you read it. And then one of your colleagues says, oh, I don't think you got that right. Can you reread that again? And then you do. How do you feel about what that colleague has just expressed about you? You don't read things right. You're not reliable. You need to do things over again. And so each time we're doing our compulsion, it's like being this terrible colleague to ourselves. And when we go and do it, we're also putting a lot of importance in that colleague. Like, hey, we didn't talk back to them and be like, you're an idiot. I read it the first time. I'm not going to redo it. We actually go and we do it again. So we're kind of saying that terrible colleague of ours, they're right. And so each time we do that, we're lowering that trust score. And we want to start to show the brain, no, I did it. I trust myself. I trust that I'm going to give that trust to myself. I'm not going to redo it. I'm not going to go back and check that. I'm not going to go and control that because I'm afraid of this bad thing happening. And I'm afraid, if I don't control it and do these controlling compulsions, I won't be able to handle it. I'm going to give myself that trust. I trust myself to go and handle it. D Fantasy said, I've been diagnosed with Puro and get negative images of random people and do compulsions to think of positive people if I don't feel like, and then it looks like it got cut off. But I would say you can see the compulsion there. It really helps to recognize with Puro that even if we're doing the compulsions in our head, it's no different than doing compulsions outside of our head. Like that there, you could see how if outside of your head, you saw a person you judged as negative, and then you're like, I have to go and see a good person. And then you're looking around for the good person. We would recognize that's a compulsion. And so the thing to do is, okay, if you saw that, that's fine. You don't have to do anything to fix it. So much of what happens is, again, just like the contamination compulsions, if we're saying, ooh, this thought shouldn't be here, this image shouldn't be here, I have to go and wash it, I have to go and clean it. That's the same as washing hands repeatedly. It's only going to create more and more of the bad stuff. Nicole, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate the support. And the little character with fans. Thank you. He said, I've always wanted to travel long term, but have been stopped by feeling the pressure of financial resources. I just started a new full-time job, and I keep feeling the same things, that I'm stuck now. Well, there's a couple things, because of course, if we want to travel long term, but we don't have a way to make money while traveling long term, of course, that creates a lot of difficulties. So we do need to look at what are the resources we need to thrive. And also looking sometimes, because the brain loves to do this, where it loves to crave a thing we can't do, and then we feel bad about not doing it. Even considering is traveling long term something that you would want to do? And what is it that the brain's looking for from that? And can we get it right here? Because I used to change locations, every year, every a few months, change careers, etc. And it really helped me to learn how to stay in one place. I've been in one place for a while now. And so looking at traveling again coming up, it's actually looking at traveling as being useful because of the impact I want to create in the world. And that's why I'm going to start to travel again. But in the past, when I would want to travel and go, it was often not actually it was just a way to practice compulsions. And it helped me to look at a lot of the things I was craving and see how I could get them right where I am. Because again, it's part of the brain always going, oh, this place isn't good enough. It'd be so much better if you went and did this other thing. So then it was useful to say, no, how do I make this place where I am really great? How do I thrive where I am? And often when we can learn how to thrive where we're at, it actually gives us the capacity and support to go on more adventures. Extermination said, I find myself drinking and eating things that are poisoned very often now. I've become rather fond of the taste of poison. Well, Extermination, I hope you're nourishing yourself well. Mike, he said, I get the urge to check for bodily sensations so I can be sure if I feel X or not. I don't engage in the compulsions, but the anxiety is killing me. When should we check for bodily signs? I would consider, maybe this question isn't useful. I would maybe expand how you're defining compulsion. Because even when we say the anxiety is killing me, like even that, to me implies there's probably been a lot of compulsions going on there. Another thing to look at, I have a video on my channel called The Anatomy of a Compulsion. It could really help to look at some of that stuff that comes before the things that we consider compulsions, like beliefs. Right? For example, if you're holding on to a belief that, oh no, if I get some kind of terrible disease, it's going to prevent me from doing the things I want to do in life. If you hold on to a belief like that, then of course, when you experience some physical sensation, your brain's going, oh no, is this the terrible disease you think is going to interfere with your life? You better check. And then we try not to check, but that's very difficult because of those unhelpful beliefs we're holding on to. So it's not just about cutting out those compulsions that come after, but looking at that set of judgments and beliefs and desires. Quite often, it's the same. And if somebody believes that the sky shouldn't be blue, they're going to be really distressed every time they walk outside and see the blue sky. And they're going to be like, oh, it's blue again. Like, how do I fix it? How do I control it? When's the right time to check if the sky is a good color? Well, like, why do we believe the sky has to be a particular color? And is that useful to us? Lima Speaks, you're going to eat dinner. Thank you for stopping on by. I thought at first you said Toodles, gang, but I thought you were saying noodles. I thought you were having noodles for dinner. Whatever you're eating for dinner, I hope it's enjoyable. United, you start to say, how can I use anxiety to empower? Oh, here's the rest of the question. How can I use anxiety to empower myself that I become mentally more resilient? So I just look at anxiety or any other emotion as just weather. So I wouldn't actually look at it as, I need anxiety to become mentally more resilient. Instead, what I would look at are actions. Actions you're going to do with any thought or feeling. So I would explore those. Like, what are the actions you want to change when anxiety comes up? But maybe it's fear, maybe it's something else. It's through those actions that we build resilience, that we build the capacity to focus, that we build psychological flexibility. Right? So anxiety can be there, and that's okay, and I can do something I value. Oh, Uzila, so greetings from Mexico. I'm glad you're finding this work useful. It's great to see you in Mexico. And Missy Reviews from the United Kingdom. It's good to see you. Hello to the United Kingdom. Eternal Juniversal. So basic question, is fear and anxiety the same? I mean, they're both words. So in that way, yes. Here's the thing, and there was a bit of discussion before Maya brought up exploring emotions. Again, when we've really been struggling, we have a short emotional ruler, where it's kind of like there's good and there's bad. And this is me trying to make a ruler. And what we want to do is grow our emotional ruler so that there are many, many, many notches on it. So we can start to see the full spectrum of emotions and the variations of emotions. But at the same time, it would still just be about having them and feeling them and exploring them. So maybe fear and anxiety are the same. Maybe there are some differences. But I would also say, like, you can have either one and do the things you value. Mm-hmm. So it could be fun to explore a question like that. Is fear and anxiety the same? But whatever the answer is, I wouldn't see it as hugely impactful to doing the things we want to do in life. Oh, Boris. He said, how do you approach breaking a big goal into small pieces on paper? Every time I try to visualize the path I want to take, my brain starts to worry about making sure that every step is clear and written down. So it's difficult to stop planning. Oh yeah, so one of the things we'll often do in, say, a business design strategy workshop is right away you just set a series of milestones. So you don't even, you base it on days or weeks. You kind of say, okay, what's the thing I'll have accomplished by the end of this week? Okay, then I'm going to do, only take 5 days to work on that. Okay, what are 5 steps to work on it? And setting a limit to the number of steps you can have can start to force you into something more realistic, because absolutely you can break everything down into an infinite number of steps. Just like you could say break every minute into an infinite number of pieces. But the reality is that we do move through time, that we aren't stuck in this kind of infinite, never moving space. So it is this kind of weird, fascinating element of time. And so just, give yourself a set structure and then run with it. So when the brain's like, ooh, but what about the steps here? Be like, yeah, whatever, brain. This is the thing we're going to do today. United said, is it good to say to ourselves, I am excited, when we have anxiety, to convert it to excitement? And would this eventually make us feel excited in all situations when we would have otherwise had anxiety? Well, I would be excited to have anxiety. At the same time, it was also really useful as I was exploring that ruler of emotions, that full range of emotions, to see that in the past I had often mistaken excitement for anxiety. And this is something you'll often see in little kids. They'll get excited about something and then start to cry because it just becomes overwhelming emotion. And who knows, that's probably why we start to associate a lot of excitement with anxiety, because we didn't know how to handle it in the past, and then we had bad experiences with it. So sometimes it can be that we actually want to recognize, oh, I'm having a heightened emotion right now. So that's earlier, if you caught the part where Maya and I were discussing emotions, that's when I mentioned it can be useful to just explore emotion and not even start to attach a label to it. So not even get to where we're going, oh, this is anxiety, but maybe it could be excitement. Just starting to say, hey, I'm having an emotion. So noticing, well, my initial reaction is to label it as anxiety, but is it? What else could it be? And maybe it's excitement, but also maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's something else. So at first, just considering that we could be totally wrong about our emotions. That's what helped me. Just acknowledging, wow, I'm wrong about emotions. Am I here? And then you asked how to sit with thoughts and emotions that are overwhelming. And that's it. There is no special thing we have to do. That in many ways, seeing it as something we have to do stuff around is the problem. As they like to say in acceptance and commitment therapy, the solution is the problem. If there are thoughts and emotions there that are overwhelming, it helped me so much to let them rise. Because in the past, I would think, oh no, this is going to be overwhelming. I must control it. But I don't have to control it. That emotion can be overwhelming and rise, and it can fall and go on its way. And that's okay. I don't have to do anything with it. Maya, yes, the values in the non-judgment course are on the Toolkit store. Toolkitstore.com. I'll put it here in the chat down below. There's also a course there on relapse right now, and then the internet skills course will be there as well. I don't know if that's no, that didn't become a link, but if you copy that, it'll take you there. And also that's where you can get the shirts and everything like that as well. And there'll be more shirts and courses on the way and exciting things. Mick Dano or MC Dano. MC Dano sounds cooler. What advice do you have for dealing with burnout? I spent a few years working several jobs, helping friends, and all the while having anxiety. The numbness and lack of empathy is just scary. Yeah, I find physical fitness, again, was so helpful here because we understand if you want to perform at a high level, you have to get proactive and serious about rest. We have to do the same with mental fitness. We are not infinite cookie jars. What happens is, yeah, with all of the work and all of the things happening around us is that it's like we're a cookie jar and we just keep giving people cookies. People ask for cookies and we're like, here, have a cookie. And those cookies come from our soul. Although, yes, also your soul is donuts. So you could think of this like donuts. We just keep giving donuts from our soul. And eventually, because it's not an infinite cookie donut jar, we're going to run out. And we're not going to have cookies and donuts for ourselves. And so we have to be reasonable about that. We so often treat ourselves as having limitless energy, and that is just not true. And we recognize with physical fitness. We recognize you're going to hit a limit. It doesn't mean anything bad about you. It's just reality. You're using energy, and you only have a finite amount of energy to use. And the same is true with all of this work and all of this stuff we do in our heads. We have to get proactive with that. And again, we so often with mental health take an illness first or problem first approach. And so we think, oh, until you burn out, you don't have to do anything. But don't wait until you burn out. We want to not burn out. We want to rest before we see a reason for it, instead of waiting until we get injured and then going, oh, I can't do anything. If we pace ourselves and we rest proactively, we can actually do more and go so much further. See, I took a sip of tea there before my throat got too dry to speak. I was being proactive. Learning how to get awesome at rest, I think, is such a key skill. And we so often ignore it. That's why I like at Plum Village, they have what they call a lazy day, and they do it every week, where there's essentially no schedule. It's very difficult for people at first to learn how to function on a day without a schedule because we're so accustomed. I've got to do stuff. I've got to accomplish stuff. I've got to be productive. It's a ticket to burning out. And if we consistently take breaks in a very proactive, supportive way, we can really do so much more. Like I would credit so much of what I can do right now in my life from learning how to take care of my mental health and being very proactive about taking breaks and doing things that nourish me. And that really helps me. I would say to some it may look like I work a lot, but within working a lot, I take lots of breaks and do lots of things I enjoy. And because of that, I can do lots of stuff. So yeah, take care of rest, everybody. And then Mr. Stick, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate it. He said, remembering that I am not a rock is so helpful every day. I just want to mention that listening to your heart sometimes is better than to your brain. Oh, totally. Yeah, the brain is so useless. Yeah, Mr. Stick, thank you so much for the supports and the useful reminder. The brain, again, just a melting ice cream cone. That's all it is. It's just, I mean, you got to lick it. There'll be some enjoyable, maybe a few minutes of enjoyment from the brain. And then, yeah, it's going to end up as like a sticky puddle on the sidewalk, or it'll, I don't know, a seagull will swoop down and eat it. That's the brain. Isabel, you said you already got this shirt. Oh, I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, totally. Send us a picture if you want. You can share it on the Discord server later. If anybody does not know about the Discord server, because we're going to wrap up here in a second, I'll share the Discord server invite here. I have an awesome community over on the Mental Fitness Discord server. Lots of people who are with us here today. So many people skilled at working with their brains and learning how to handle their brain while they do the things they really want to do in life. And it's been great to connect with everybody there and build a community around this. I was really saying to somebody, they were asking me about, whether, it felt kind of lonely or anything like that during the pandemic. But I would say so much. I'm totally very comfortable with being alone now and can enjoy that. But also I feel I'm coming out of the pandemic actually with much more community than I went in with, because of having a support community that's really built around mental health and fitness in a healthy way. Whereas for so long, when I do stuff online, it's felt like interacting with communities that were very not really focused on recovery. So it's been, I found it just wonderful to connect with the community on the Mental Fitness Discord server. So if somebody is not a member of that team, group, community yet, feel free to jump on in there. Oh, yes, Isabel, you said you got the Have Feeling shirt. You got the green one, the very green feeling shirt, you said, which I feel uncertainty about. Enjoy the green Have Feeling shirt. Yes, you said the only shirt that is missing is one with the term dangerous acceptance. We have a radical acceptance on the way, and then I'm going to team up with Kelly to create a dangerous acceptance shirt. It's something we talked about after the stream the other night, so keep an eye out for dangerous acceptance in the future. Matthias, you said, what does your workout plan look like at the moment? And do you mean mental fitness workout plan or physical fitness, or both? So right now, the physical fitness workout plan, I just got started on a workout plan that's just for kettlebells. So I've, over the pandemic, collected some kettlebells. I just got started out on a workout plan. I was working out kind of casually. And I thought, it'd be great to do a program and really just push myself with something. So I'm following a trainer's kettlebell workout program that's going great, and doing running. And then in meditation, pretty standard meditation practice right now. I wouldn't say there's anything in particular that I'm working on there. But so I've been doing these interviews. I would really like to start doing some stream around meditation. And so I just got a new light for my camera, specifically with the aim of hopefully using that to stream meditations, because I'd really like to explore how to share the practice more. And so I'd say, in general, that's a thing I'm always looking at. And in my mental fitness practice in general right now, the work is a lot on learning how to communicate with others effectively and build community and practice around these skills, and collaborate with other people. Because for so long, I've always worked on my own. And it's a great practice to work on collaborating with others and exploring how to share values in a way that others can pick them up and run with them. And that's where a lot of my work focuses right now. Oh, Dhiren, you said my videos have helped you tremendously on your road to recovery. Oh, so yeah, thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad you found them useful. United said, is figuring out what to do in certain future situations the same as solving the past? Should we rather be present? What should I do if my mind says to figure it out so that I have time to prepare? Yeah, I see them the same. Like the time traveling, we do both. We're either time traveling to fix the past or time traveling to the future to control the future and the universe. And instead, I come back to values. So really identifying what do I value doing? How am I going to practice that now? And how do I then trust myself in the future to encounter whatever happens and do things I value? Sometimes there absolutely are things I want to create in the future. And I identify that and look at the steps to getting there. Because there'll be some things I want to do in the present, but I'm still going to be present with those, even recognizing that, yeah, the future may not come. So I'm going to enjoy doing those actions in the present. And maybe there's no outcome. It's so useful to not do things with some kind of getting and gaining goal, because then we're often frustrated and anxious and we don't get the things we're looking for. Ella said, I would like to know your thoughts on insomnia. What would be the best approach to ease sleep-related anxiety? One of the things I emphasize to people immediately is to look at what's happening during the daytime. We only have the brain at the end of the day that we've been training all day. So I always have a lot of questions if someone brings up sleep anxiety and insomnia, because what we really want to start to look at is how you interact with control throughout the day. Because, for example, if I'm doing lots of things during the day to control uncertainty, to control physical sensations, to control possibilities of losing control, I'm just teaching the brain to do that. And I may like it during the day, but then when I get to the end of the day, it's kind of like I've been training a dog all day to jump on things. And I get to the end of the day, I'm like, okay, dog, we're going to go to bed now. But all day I've been rewarding the dog for controlling things and jumping on things. So it's going to keep going because that's what it gets rewarded for. If I want to change how I interact with emotions and uncertainty at the end of the day, I've got to change how I'm interacting with them throughout the day. And I would look instead at insomnia and sleep anxiety as an outcome, not as a primary problem. And it's a lot like that diagram I mentioned earlier. You may not have been here for this. I'll share it later on Instagram because it's my favorite scientific diagram, which is a person standing in a pile of shit with an elephant beside them. And we often focus on the pile of shit. Like, I have a sleep anxiety problem. What we actually need to look at is the elephant standing beside them. Where did the shit come from? How is that system being fed? Because we can keep cleaning out the shit, but it's not going to change until we tackle the elephant. Michael, quick question. He said, can adding hobbies become a compulsion? Yes. Like maybe they're a distraction from struggles in life. I find myself with too much going on. I love music, guitar, bikes, etc. Absolutely. Really common compulsion. Yeah, we feel I've got to do this. I've got to do this. And so something I found helpful is a concept I call learning how to let some dishes drop. Because we want to carry all of these dishes and we're like, I like this and I like this and I like this and I can't let any of them drop. It'll be terrible. And so just practicing dropping some to learn how to handle it, to see what happens. And to see that we can give ourselves time. There's so many things that we want to do in life, but we'll have to prioritize some, and there'll be some we don't get to, and that's okay. We really struggle with loss and letting things go, and so we want to hold them all, but the reality is that we can't. Sarah said, thank you for providing those meditation resources when I contacted you when I was in the hospital. Oh, Sarah, I hope you're doing well now. And I hope meditation continues to be a valuable resource outside of the hospital too. It's great to hear from you. Yeah, United, you said, I mean, in those future situations where things can go wrong, should we imagine how we would solve them if they happen, or just deal with them at the moment when they actually happen? Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant by we identify values, and I'm going to trust in my values when I get to that situation. So a clear example is like this week I was doing a bunch of presentations for that Stanford program. And even when I do presentations in general now, in the past, I would have done tons of, oh, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. And I would have spent so much time ruminating about different things that could happen. And I saw that as very necessary, right? It's a great example of a compulsion that I like doing that I thought was necessary. Totally a compulsion. Just creates more uncertainty. It's an example of these things that can fuel sleep anxiety. Because if I've been thinking about possibilities all day, and then I lie down to go to bed, the brain's going to be like, why aren't you thinking about more things that could go wrong? You're about to be unconscious for 8 hours. Let me tell you things that could go wrong. And it's a practice that's really not useful to us. So I identify values and I don't do any of that. I'm going to step in and things will come up and I trust myself to handle them in that moment. Looking at my values, looking at the context and understanding what I want to give. Yes, Silent Space has mentioned drop the dishes, but obviously the happy mug is a dish we would never drop. I've never broken one. It feels very sturdy and solid. It might bounce. I can't guarantee that though. It might also break. Extermination. Oh, you're on the camping trip, on your way to the camping trip right now. So this took up half of your 4-hour car ride. Oh, I'm so glad. Enjoy the camping trip coming up. It's such an awesome time to go camping. Please enjoy those summer nights by the campfire. With that, everybody, on that note, because hopefully everybody is driving 4 hours right now to go to a campground and enjoy nature. Let's wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. It's always such a pleasure. I'm so glad we can get together and talk about these skills, talk about recovery, connect with people all over the world, as we saw so many of you from so many different parts of our planet. We have brains, and they are very similar no matter where those brains are living. So it's great we can come together and build community around doing awesome, challenging things. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the donations today, all the support, all the questions, all the kind comments. It's wonderful to connect with you all. And I will see you in all of the different places that we see each other. We're on the Discord server this week, over on Instagram. I don't think I have an interview this week. I don't think so. I will check on that. I don't think there's an interview this week, so we'll probably do a WWMD stream over on Twitch later in the week, and then we'll be on Twitch on the weekend. So until then, thank you everybody so much for the support and dropping on by. Happy taking care of your squishy, melting brains. And we'll see you all soon.